It was a cold, foggy night in the isolated village of Black Hollow, nestled deep in the forest of Vermont, USA, where the trees seemed to whisper secrets to those who dared to listen. The village was known for its eerie tranquility, but on the night of October 31st, 2019, that peace was shattered by a crime so baffling it would leave the entire community in fear. The victim was 45-year-old Eleanor Graves, the village's reclusive librarian, who was found dead in her cottage, her body slumped over her desk with a single stab. The murder weapon, an ornate, antique letter opener, was left protruding from her chest, its handle engraved with a symbol no one in the village recognized. Eleanor had no known enemies, but her death was anything but random, as the killer had left behind a chilling clue, a handwritten note tucked under her arm. The note read, the first of many, sending a wave of panic through the tight-knit community. The police were called, but with no witnesses, no fingerprints, and no clear motive. The investigation quickly hit a dead end. The only lead was a set of muddy footprints leading away from Eleanor's cottage, but they disappeared into the dense forest, leaving no trace of the killer. As the days turned into weeks, the village was consumed by paranoia, with neighbors eyeing each other with suspicion. Rumors began to spread. Was the killer an outsider, or someone hiding in plain sight among them? The police turned their attention to Eleanor's estranged brother, Victor Graves, who had a history of violent outbursts and had been seen arguing with her just days before her death. But Victor had an alibi. He claimed to have been hunting in the woods that night, though no one could confirm his story. Then there was Margaret Hale, the village's eccentric herbalist, who had been seen lurking near Eleanor's cottage the night of the murder. Margaret was known for her cryptic warnings and her collection of strange artifacts, including an antique letter opener eerily similar to the murder weapon. But when questioned, Margaret denied any involvement, claiming she had been gathering herbs under the full moon. The police were stumped, and the case grew colder with each passing day. That is, until a second murder rocked the village just 2 months later. The victim was 52-year-old Thomas Whitaker, the village's blacksmith, who was found dead in his forge, his body slumped over the anvil with a single stab wound to the heart. The murder weapon, another ornate, antique letter opener, was left protruding from his chest, its handle engraved with the same mysterious symbol. Once again, a handwritten note was found at the scene, this time reading, the second of many. The village was thrown into chaos, with residents locking their doors and refusing to venture out after dark. The police were desperate for answers, but the killer left no trace, no fingerprints, and no witnesses. The only clue was a faint scent of lavender lingering in the air, a detail that seemed insignificant at the time, but would later prove crucial. As the investigation deepened, the police uncovered a series of disturbing connections between the victims. Eleanor and Thomas had both been members of a secretive book club that met once a month in the village hall. The club, known as the Midnight Readers, was rumored to delve into forbidden texts and occult practices, though no one could confirm the truth. The police questioned the remaining members, but each one denied any knowledge of the murders or the strange symbol engraved on the letter openers. Then there was the village's new priest, Father Gregory, who had arrived just weeks before Eleanor's murder. Father Gregory was a quiet, enigmatic figure who seemed to know more than he let on, but his alibi for both murders was airtight. The police were running out of leads, and the killer's taunting notes suggested there would be more victims. The case took a dramatic turn when a third murder occurred 6 months later. The victim was 38-year-old Lydia Marsh, the village's school teacher, who was found dead in her classroom, her body slumped over her desk with a single stab wound to the heart. Once again, the murder weapon was an ornate, antique letter opener, and a note was left behind. The third of many, but this time the killer made a mistake. A single strand of hair was found clutched in Lydia's hand. DNA testing revealed that the hair belonged to someone with no criminal record, but the results were inconclusive. The police were closer than ever to catching the killer, but the village was on the brink of collapse, with residents fleeing in droves. In a final, desperate attempt to solve the case, the police staged a trap, using one of the remaining midnight readers as bait. The plan worked, and the killer was caught in the act, but the revelation was more shocking than anyone could have imagined. The killer was none other than Margaret Hale, the village's eccentric herbalist, who had been hiding in plain sight all along. Margaret confessed to the murders, claiming she had been carrying out a ritual to cleanse the village of its sins. The antique letter openers, she explained, were part of a centuries-old tradition tied to the symbol engraved on their handles. But just as the police were preparing to arrest her, Margaret took her own life, leaving behind a final note. The last of many. The village of Black Hollow has never fully recovered from the horrors of that year. The murders remain a haunting mystery, with questions still unanswered and secrets still buried. Was Margaret truly the killer, or was she merely a pawn in a larger, darker game? And what of the symbol engraved on the letter openers, a symbol that has since disappeared without a trace? The case remains officially closed, but for the people of Black Hollow, the nightmare is far from over. The killer may be gone, but the fear lingers, a reminder that evil can hide in the most unexpected places. And as the fog rolls in and the trees continue to whisper, the village waits, wondering if the killer's final note was a promise or a warning.